Cultural competence is the ability of teachers to see and value the culture of the children and students that they teach. It's understanding that all students bring with them culture, and indeed the teacher has a culture. And when we become culturally competent, we're able to use that culture as a building block for students' achievement. I think that culturally competent teachers think of their students as a group of people from whom they can learn. One of my colleagues at the Northwestern University, Carol Lee, talks about a classroom in which she was studying teachers, and the teacher that she was working with would always say, you have to study the students. And that's what culturally competent teachers do. They don't presume that just because a student is of a particular race or ethnicity, that they already know what that student is like. Even if that race or ethnicity is exactly the same as theirs. They literally study the student, and because every group of students is a new group. They look for cues, they look for indicators from the students as to how best to meet their needs.
Start by just giving you a quick verse, a rap verse. So I know that's not traditional in these spaces, but why not? So I sit in the back of the science class unconscious because everything that my teacher's spitting is nonsense. I want to raise my hand to avoid the conflict, but if I raise my hand, I'm not the one he's going to pick. So I sit there, mind in another place, rhyming to myself, different time, different space, displaced, we ain't at the same pace, can't wait for the bell so I can make my escape. And that rap was my interpretation of the experiences of a young man in a classroom in the Bronx who wanted to engage in the classroom but just could not find the opportunity to do so given the stifling structures of the classroom. So that bothered me a lot and it really informs my work, and it brings me to this space where I realize that in this era we have in education, there's this really, really blind association between teaching and learning and peace, equity, and justice. We think that if someone is in the world of education or the field of education, that their work lends itself to being someone who sort of pushes forth these ideas, who supports these ideas. I mean, after all, we've all seen the images of, a white middle-class teacher in an inner-city school, sort of covered down over the students and looking at them in their eyes, and they're looking back and they're reciting their alphabets. That moment, that space just looks like it's moving towards peace, equity, and justice. It makes us happy. And in the world of education, there are a bunch of really transformative and powerful words. I actually just used one, transformative. These words that become littered across the educational landscape. So we say things like transformative, powerful, multicultural, progressive, focusing on equity. We use all these terms to describe the little practices that occur in classrooms every day because in some way, by using those powerful words, we can sort of let people believe that we are moving towards peace and justice. But what's happened is, because we've used those words so often, and they've become part and parcel of our discourse, and they've become really just part of the academic lexicon, the power that those words have been lost. An idea like multicultural, that can mean bringing all sorts of cultures in the classroom, have kids express their voices and their opinions depending on what their backgrounds are, has become, have everybody's flag represented. So powerful terms and ideas, because we use them so often, has ruined what they can really do, has ruined the opportunity for them to push us towards peace and justice. And when I talk about peace and justice, I'm also going to trouble things a bit. I'm going to talk about how in classrooms we don't see peace and justice, and the fact that we can't ever get to peace and justice if we present those ideas peacefully. That in order to attain peace and justice, it takes pushing forth an energy that is actually sort of powerful and shaking things up. We can't have peace and justice in education if we use those words when just a few days ago we were talking about Trayvon Martin, who was shot because he was black and wearing a hoodie. And weeks before that, we had an issue of a teacher in a school with slavery math problems in 2012. And the idea is that we cannot say that the images we present in classrooms of peace and justice because they look nice, or the words we use to describe what goes on in classrooms because they sound good, mean anything if we don't create a space where those issues outside of the classroom are brought inside of the classroom, where we provide opportunities for youth to be able to engage in discourse and develop critical thinking about how they are part and parcel of an oppressive process outside of the classroom world, and how that impacts how they are in the classroom, the selves that they express in the classroom.
I think being a culturally sensitive teacher begins with building a strong relationship with your students. It also is teaching that addresses the differences in your classroom, and it's also being careful about the types of assessment that you use. What I find interesting about the building a rapport with students is there was a study done by Harvard that was looking at our efforts to close the achievement gap, and they found there really wasn't a large difference between the white students and the students of color when they were asked questions about what they wanted in school and what they liked about school and what a good education was. There was only one question that made a difference for the students. The students of color said it mattered to them whether their teacher liked them.